Family. Trying to get most of it together. All right, family. So glad to be back with you for another episode of Soul Swami Live Thursday Night Book Club. You know we love that. Man. I be struggling with that game. Phasmophobia or something. I'm gonna get back in it so I can play it a little bit. Get live. Okay, Facebook tripping. Do do do. Oh no. It's just an hour behind. There we go. Facebook just be so delayed. So delayed. I be thinking it ain't working. Happy Friday. I was thinking about you and Toddy. I really do appreciate your support, your consistency and support too. You know what I mean? You're like, thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. The heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from Pete. And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. There we go. I did that for you. Something. Anyway, family, welcome to another episode of Soul Swami Live Thursday Night Book Club. I am Soul Swami. And generally what we do here is discuss healing in all its various forms. Thursday night is a spinoff of our Tuesday night show in an effort to allow us to reconnect with the childlike energy in us by allowing someone to read to us. Hold on. Hey, but listen, at least I'm singing Golden Girls now. Because at first I've been stuck on she's strange and I like it. Yo, I didn't recognize when I was a kid, all these years, that there are actually no women in that video. I was like, wait a minute. There aren't any women in that video. Wait a minute. But when I was a kid, I ain't know no better. So I definitely thought it was women in that video, but now that I know what he's talking about, I definitely know it ain't no women in that video either. So, all right, there we go. But anyway, you can catch our show every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We just wrapped up the 12 universal laws. I think next week we'll do something on emotional regulation because it's just been kind of in my life. But make sure you subscribe, follow, like, share, all those things so you can get the notification. Generally at the beginning of every show, we do a little bit of energy work. Oh, man. Listen, I got a remote for my fan, right? And it definitely has a tendency to cut my TV on too. So I was actually cutting the fan off. Oh man, I was trying not to have all my drawers showing, but hey, it happens to the best of us. I was actually trying to cut the fan off, but and I cut the fan off and TV cut on. So, but anyway, generally we do a little bit of energy work at the beginning of every show, and this week we are on our heart. Heart is the focal point for your love, your compassion, your empathy, your kindness, and your feelings of acceptance. If you are into color therapy or light therapy, the color for heart is green. So you want to do wear a little green, eat a little green, spend some time in some green, spend some time in some green lights. All those will wind up helping you activate the energy of your heart. The element for your heart is air, whether it's the internal air that you create within yourself or the air that you can feel across the skin. All of that is good for your heart, right? So if you are into essential oils and aromatherapy, you want to think rose, jasmine, geranium. All of those are very good for your heart. I got stuck on jasmine because normally I eat basmati rice, but they had some trying to make sure I monitor my fiber intake, so they had some brown jasmine rice, so I've been eating that lately. I mean, it hasn't been that bad. It definitely takes longer to cook in my rice cooker, so that's a little disappointing. But the way I flavor it up is all gravy. Gravy. If you are into crystals and gemstones, you want to think emerald, jade, aventurine, rose quartz, green calcite are all fantastic for your heart energy. Yeah, the funny thing about jasmine rice with me is it be smelling too jasmine-y. So it is very aromatic. And the funny thing about it is sometimes I love aromatics and sometimes I do not love aromatics. And jasmine is too aromatic. So jasmine brown rice is not nearly as aromatic as white rice. So that makes it a little bit better for me. But I generally don't like jasmine rice except when it's smothered with butter chicken. Because I love butter chicken and cilantro. Oh my God. I hate cilantro. It is like eating Vicks. I can feel it coming out. It's like it has to be in the mint family because it comes out my nostrils like mint. So this jasmine brown rice is a new turnover for me. So after we talk about that, we move into a little bit of sound therapy. I bust out the stick today, so I might hit the bowl. Well, I am going to hit the bowl for a little bit, but we're going to use that rain stick today. Rain down on me that you love. I'm such a kid. Cilantro tastes like soap. Irish Spring, I can see that. It's overly aromatic. It was this taco spot I used to get. Okay, so there was a taco spot that I loved in Milwaukee that I definitely called taco. No, I call it Taco Wall. Right? Because you literally just walk up to a wall and it's a whole restaurant inside. You're like, hey man, I'm just ordering at a wall in the middle of a building. Yes. And they had some of the best tacos. But there was a taco spot. I called it Taco Hole in the Wall. Even though it wasn't a taco hole in the wall like the other taco hole in the wall, it was how we would think of a hole in the wall. It was a little in a shanty town. I play the music, my father, and anyway. But they used to always make. Of course, they had authentic tacos, and authentic tacos is just like meat, and cilantro. Every time I'm like, man, please don't give me that cilantro. Please, 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 please. Until we kill the white people, oh, we gonna make them pay. Man, listen. Listen, gut health and emotions must be in check right now, you dig? Because the vibrations was loud. I ain't even have to do much. So, pat yourself on the back, family. I'm laughing because you said it's so soothing. And I'm literally over here calming myself down. And I'm laughing because I was tripping a minute ago. And hit this a couple of times. I'm over here like taking my deep, relaxing breaths. Oh, man. All right, next we'll do a little bit of breath work. As I was doing the rain stick, I just kind of felt like box breathing will work for us tonight. If you are unfamiliar with box breathing, it is oh man, you copycatting my feet rubbing. You know, Tot said that's it. Like, man, I be seeing you rub your feet. It make me want to rub my feet. Listen, we might have to do something about YouTube too, cause we be getting YouTube views, but I don't be knowing it. But if you are unfamiliar with box breathing, and that is, you breathe in for a 4 count, you hold for a 4 count, and then you exhale for a 4 count. But during this time, all you really have to do is just focus in on your breathing and the exchange of energy from low to high vibrations, and listening to the sound of my voice as I guide you through. On the count of 3, family, we will start with box breathing. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. That's interesting. So now I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. These are several things that you can say to activate the power of your heart. And remember, your heart is the most magnetic organ that you do have in your body. So it is okay to lead with your heart to manifest those things into your reality. Just take a deep breath and repeat after me. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. I follow the voice of my heart. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure, and I follow the voice of my heart. And if you was wondering, We're going to do it. This is your reminder that you can purchase the 7 Spaces of Healing to support the channel and to support your evolution into the best version of yourself by learning 7 spaces that you need to create within yourself, and those same 7 spaces that you need to make sure that you are a part of these spaces and energy to support your evolution and growth. You need a space for love. You need a space for healing. You need a space for solitude. You need a space for trust. You need a space for risk without judgment. A space for accountability, and a space for forgiveness. Do yourself a favor. Get your copy. Available now on Amazon. Amazon. Half man, half Amazon. Okay. I'll be getting notifications that my credit score, and I'll be having to check. Because I learned that the biggest fraud that we have in America is insurance fraud. And if you pay attention, these insurance companies, big and small, been getting hacked to death over these last couple of years. United Healthcare, when I was with them, my dermatologist, and I don't even know who these new people are. They didn't even find out they was hacked till a year later. But I definitely keep getting emails for random things and random stuff. I just got one for a ticket that I must take care of in Raleigh only. Okay, ain't nobody worry about that. Where are we in the book? Okay, so I know that. Okay, he met the guy that is trying to buy To Kill a Mockingbird from him. Boop, 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 boop. Turn it down. Hey, what am I gonna do? Hey, man. Don't lie. Okay. We don't want to do that either. We won't read. So he finally met the guy who wants to buy the To Kill a Mockingbird book. And it's a good time because he definitely was thinking about ending his story. Hey, Joy. I was seeing you the other day, girl. Happy belated and all those great things, man. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I know I turned that down to 0. I was thinking about all the great times we used to have working together, and I miss those times too. If you talk to our friend, tell her I said I miss her and I was thinking about her. I hope all is well in her life and all those good things. But thanks for stopping by. Make sure you come by on Tuesday night too, because Tuesday night is where we be getting busy and I'm dropping mad jewels. You can always catch your missed episodes on the YouTube. YouTube has every video we've ever made, from the beginning where it looked like we were in a prison cell to where we are now. My friend said it looks like a studio. He was like, you got a real studio going on with lights and that. Yes, it does. So thanks for your support as always. You know what I mean? All right. So now we're on, what is this? Unit 5, chapter 42. I guess we will find out a little bit more about the wise ones Again, we are reading Changeling by Victor Lavalle. And it is a show that I love on Apple TV that is not going to have season 2. So we are a little disappointed with that. But that's why we're reading the book, family. Okay. Chapter 42. Well, that's just some bullshit. You know that, right? Patrice and Apollo stood together on a platform at the Long Island Railroad's Jamaica station. They were waiting for the train to Long Beach in Nassau County, doing 6 more minutes. He said he wanted us to bring the book to him, Apollo explained. And when a man has agreed to pay $70,000 for a book, you best believe I'll take a train ride to get to him. He raised his eyebrows at Patrice. And you will too. Patrice waggled his head. Though he was the bigger man, his movements made him seem even smaller, younger. From a distance, they promenaded a parent and a scolded child. I feel like we're 2 drug dealers out to make a sale. Drug dealers don't gift wrap, Apollo said. Apollo opened the case and carried the book and slid it out. The book was wrapped perfectly in paper that had been silk screened with an ornate gold medallion pattern. Apollo had even applied a bow. That's some fruity shit, Patrice said, waving the package away. Then he leaned closer and touched the wrapping paper gently. Is this from Kate paper? Hell yeah. It's called using paper. Gold medallions. Patrice nodded. That shit's tight. Now he looked in either direction, but put away before someone sees 2 grown men talking about wrapping paper. Apollo felt the temptation to hold the wrap book in the air and run up and down the platform calling out Patrice's full name and address. With his luck, though, he'd play that prank and stumble and the book would fly out of his hands and fall onto the train tracks where it would be crushed by a arriving train. He slipped the book back into the bag. Now the 2 of them returned to the silence on the platform. Apollo hadn't mentioned anything about the woman at the church or Cal or the wise ones to Patrice. What would he say about it? He didn't even know what to think about it. The Jamaica station had been renovated in 2006. The new train platforms, elevators from the street level, and brand new escalators. A pedestrian bridge linked the station with the newly complete AirTran to John F. Kennedy Airport. A steel and glass canopy rose over the train platform, allowing riders to be protected from bad weather, but still enjoy the open air. There was slightly a European railway feel after the renovations, a distinct difference from the Jamaica station as Apollo remembered it from the 1980s. Dresden after the bombing and Dresden today. That's how drastic the change. But when he looked around, he could still see old platforms and down on the street level, the old Jamaica Queens. If his mother had been with him, would she have even seen a third Jamaica? The one she first encountered when she was a young immigrant in the United States? How many Jamaicas might there be? If you were 1,000 years old, you remember when all this was marshland and Jamaica Avenue was an old Rockaway trail used by the Rockaway and the Canarsie Indians. And before that, in the 1800s, city workers dredging the bottom of nearby Baisley Pond found the remains of an American mastodon, a mastodon sculpture that had been raised in the Siphon Playground. All those tales were told right here, one after the next, each informing the one that came after. History isn't a tale told once, it's a series of revisions. Would it be so surprising if once there had been witches here too? The train car was nearly empty. Few were headed out to Long Beach at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. Outside, Queens whipped by. I'm all for this sale, Patrice said, but I think if we waited until this lady was dead, we could have doubled what this dude was willing to pay. It's 2015, Apollo said. She might not die for another 10 years. Meanwhile, this guy wants to buy it now. For $70,000, I bought this book for $100. Think about how much of a markup that is already. Patrice crossed his arms, looking out the window. If you're going to make rational arguments, I'm not going to keep talking with you. But she might die, like next year, and then I'm going to be pissed we sold it too soon. Apollo patted his friend's shoulder. That won't happen. You're going to have a quick turnaround, Patrice said casually. You got another meeting tonight, right? Patrice was right. Despite running off for coffee with William Wheeler last week, Apollo did plan to attend tonight's meeting of the survivors. He missed them. Plus, his parole officer had looked at his sign-in sheet pretty funny. He hadn't come out and accused Apollo of forging Alice's signature, but the man stared at that sheet cockeyed before filing it. There was a warning in the gesture, and Apollo decided he wouldn't risk it again. So yes, he'd be back with the survivors. He even checked in on the Facebook page, saying he'd be coming in case his P.O. sniffed around his online trail. Patrice scanned his phone. The Survivors Club, Patrice read, meeting at the Chinese Community Center of Flushing. You want the address? You remember? Apollo asked. So dumbfounded, the bag slid right off his lap on the floor. He didn't even notice. Patrice reached down and scooped the bag up. No, he said. But when you check in, it popped up on the tribute page. Apollo felt as if his head had been dunked underwater. What the fuck are you even talking about? The tribute page, Patrice said softly to Brian. He tapped his phone, then handed it to Apollo. Tribute to baby Brian, Apollo read. There was a Facebook page dedicated to Brian Kagwa. It had 16,000 fans. The page used the same photo of Brian that had been in all the news reports, the one Apollo had taken down in the basement of the home in Riverdale. Who'd snatched that picture from his personal page first? Which news outlet? And now it was here too? Apollo's fingertips felt hotter, as if the phone were burning him. Patrice spoke softly. I'm a fan, he said. Then he heard himself and put his hands up. Not a fan. You know what I mean. I'm going to shut up now. Apollo scrolled down, reading through the many posts. He had a lot of nicknames on the tribute to baby Brian's Facebook page. The Hanging Husband, the Prisoner of Apartment 43, Strangled Dad, Failed Father, Mr. My Son is Dead. There were kinder ones, of course, but some were even worse. Quite a few blamed him for what happened. Men and women, members from every race and region of the United States, international contributors, too. All of them had their opinions. A segment of every population you could imagine hated him. Many more loathed Emma. Almost all of them spent at least a line condemning her to some kind of hell. The only innocent in all of this was the child. And though it hurt, Apollo couldn't argue with that. Apollo scrolled back up the page. It had been started while he was been in the hospital, when he and Emma and Brian had been breaking news. In all likelihood, someone had started the page with good intentions, but then his own life got busy, and this person stopped keeping track. Soon, no one was driving the train, and everyone was driving the train. Some folks posted messages of love addressing Brian directly, prayers from more holy books than Apollo recognized. There were images of angels holding a baby that looked vaguely like Brian, and others of angels with Brian's little face scanned directly onto the body. Pictures of Emma, and sometimes Apollo, scanned onto monsters from movies or myth. Medea, a mainstay. The image of a tombstone with Emma's name and the phrase, "Rest in piss." For a while, early on, There were people having ongoing arguments about the case, about Emma's disappearance, about the inability of the law enforcement to find her, various conspiracy theories about how Apollo had killed them both and got away with the crime. Posts condemning the misogyny and the misandry surfaced throughout. Some threads turned into parenting forums of a sort where people dissected the ways Apollo and Emma had parented badly from the beginning. What evidence any of them had about Apollo and Emma's parenting style was unclear, and obviously it didn't matter. They'd been helicopter parents, and that's what went wrong. They'd been a household with two working parents, and that they had started the whole mess. A few wrote of their empathy for Emma, saying she clearly suffered from a severe postpartum depression. Some suggested one night, Say gloated, that this kind of thing was incredibly common in a black household. They live in hell, these people, so they act like devils. Boy, you can't get caught up reading the comments, because they will trip. I can't believe this, Apollo whispered, but he couldn't stop reading. All this time, while he'd been in the hospital, in Rikers, and even now, struggling through some sort of recovery, he'd been discussed, dissected, and denounced. He felt as if he had just been told he'd been walking around with his ass hanging out, so utterly exposed. Was it better that he hadn't known this page existed, or was that worse? And then there was a person who'd started the page, the administrator. He went by the name Green Hair Harry. His own page was clearly just a placeholder. The profile photos showed the Grinch grinning. Only one piece of personal information provided. Hometown, Mount Crumpet. Why would this guy do this? Apollo asked, looking up from the phone. Patrice stared back, his mouth hanging open. I thought you knew about the page, my man. I never would have. I got a note there was some activity on the page. When I went there, I saw that you check in with the survivors. I figured if you were posting on Baby Brian's page, that meant you knew. I ain't do that, Apollo said. Not one purpose, at least. I was just trying to cover my ass for my parole officer. Apollo had stopped talking, going over the technical details about the post and alert notifications made him want to crack Patrice's phone against the side of Patrice's head. Speaking of Patrice, why would he even join such a page? Patrice slipped his phone from Apollo's hand and placed it face down on his thigh. Apollo leaned away from Patrice until his shoulder touched the window. Outside, they'd left Queens and reached Long Island. The yards of the homes were slightly larger, the commercial buildings no more than 2 stories tall. 16,000 people had joined that page. For what? As the train sped past these residential homes, Apollo wondered if he might be seeing places where many of them had lived. Maybe Green Hair Harry lived in that brick Tudor home right there, or the one next to it. Apollo felt his breath leaving him, dizziness so severe he might black out. What had he been worrying about 20 minutes earlier? Fucking witches? Why worry over witches when the internet can conjure so much worse? I know that's right. It definitely has that tendency. Spelling is powerful, and the internet is all spelling. Chapter 43. The Long Beach Station Depot had red clay tiled roof and white walls with brown accents at the corners, making it look more like a Mediterranean bungalow than the last stop on the Long Island Railroad. It was even more incongruous in midwinter when the cold winds from Reynolds Channel to the north and the Atlantic Ocean to the south made the building shiver. That's our guy, Patrice asked. In the parking lot, William Wheeler stood in front of a green 2003 Subaru Outback. His arms were crossed, and he watched the asphalt as if reading tea leaves. For a moment, Patrice and Apollo stood inside the station and watched them. Wheeler uncrossed his arms and walked around the Subaru. He opened the driver's side door and pulled out a plastic supermarket bag. It was tied at the top, and William untied it with urgency. The waiting area of the Long Beach station was sidetracked by low, fuzzy buzz. The ticket agent left his microphone on while he stepped away from the chair at the booth. The room practically throbbed as Wheeler reached into the plastic bag. He pulled out 64-ounce bottles of soda. Tab. It's 2015, Patrice said quietly. Who the fuck still drinks Tab? Red flag. I'd have thought he ain't had the money. 40 ounce of beer would have been problematic. A liter of gin downright troubling. But a 64-ounce bottle of Tab? Ridiculous. The bottle's pink wrapper had faded into the color of fiberglass insulation. Wheeler walked back to the front of the Subaru and rested against the hood. He lifted the jug to his mouth and chugged. You know what that is, Patrice said. That's your future. That's messed up. Apollo was mesmerized by the sight of Wheeler's Adam apple rising and falling, his belly expanding and contracting as he gorged himself on Tab. Patrice pulled Apollo by the shoulder. That's a man who's lived without a woman for a long time, Patrice explained. He placed an arm around Apollo and squeezed to make his point. Not months, but years. Decades. A man who lives alone for that long forgets what it's like to be civilized. He starts walking around his house in nothing but ratty underwear. Then one day, he steps out to get the mail in that underwear and doesn't even notice. Then he's out on the porch in some saggy-ass boxer shorts and no t-shirt and is surprised when people think he looks like a troll. Wheeler lowered the bottle, took a breath through his nose, and raised it again. He drank with so much gusto, a little seeped from his mouth and ran down his cheek. His throat expanded like a snake swallowing a mouse. Living without a woman in your life is how you see these fat dudes wearing interesting facial hair and posting angry videos about how everyone else in the world is stupid for not appreciating them. Women only like jerks. That's the mantra of dudes who have made themselves undateable but aren't willing to take the blame. These motherfuckers are so backed up sexually, it creeps into their brains and rots out their skull. That's how you are going to end up. Being a grown man publicly guzzling a bottle of goddamn Tab in a parking lot on Long Island. Apollo nodded, but the only thing he felt right then was pity for William Wheeler. He'd invited Apollo and Patrice out here and offered to pick them up, all so he could have the privilege of writing them a 5-figure check. And for this generosity, Patrice paid him back with scorn. As he and his partner walked out of the station, Wheeler waved to them with his free hand. He set the bottle of Tab on the car hood. He took 2 steps, and the bottle teetered forward, went flat on the hood, and rolled right off the car onto the ground. Brown fizz streaked the hood. Wheeler spun around and crouched and picked up the soda as if it was a fallen child. His slacks hugged him too tightly, and his jacket rolled up, exposing a fleshy waist. I'm starting to think this dude has never been with a woman, Patrice said. Apollo didn't feel compelled to bring up the $2 Wheeler mentioned. What for? Besides, the wind rushing across the parking lot felt good to Apollo. Maybe it was also seeing Wheeler again. Even a moment, this embarrassing reminded Apollo of that evening in the Dunkin' Donuts, and Apollo understood, as he couldn't consciously then, that Wheeler had helped him in some small way to save Apollo's life. Walking out of that church after that woman's words, well, maybe Apollo had been close to cracking up. Then this middle-aged guy wanted to sit and have coffee and do some business, and weirdly, That was enough to keep Apollo's mind on track. I know one more thing this guy hasn't done, Apollo said, turning to Patrice. As much as you make fun of him, I know he's never joined a fucking tribute to Baby Brian Facebook page. He probably created it. He's creepy. Patrice actually stopped walking, stopped blinking, stopped breathing. It was as if his whole central nervous system had gone on the fritz. Meanwhile, Apollo moved up. He waved at Wheeler, and when he got close, shook the man's hand. The inside of the Subaru smelled surprisingly sweet. The cars became clear quickly. 2 car fresheners hanging from the rearview mirror. Strawberries. From the back seat, Patrice leaned forward and tapped them with one long finger. Those are from my daughters, Wheeler said. He looked more sheepish about the fresheners than he had been about the tab. Daughters? Patrice repeated. And one wife, Wheeler added as he started the car. Apollo didn't look back at Patrice to grin or gloat. In fact, he avoided eye contact with the big man for the rest of the drive. As Wheeler drove out the parking lot, he said, I used to call each one a little strawberry. When they get mad, their faces go all so red. He smiled at the memory as he merged onto the East Park Avenue. I thought we'd go out and talk on the water, he said, continuing east. Does that sound like a good time for you two? Like on a ferry or something, Mr. Wheeler? Patrice asked. He looked a little bit thrown off. His usual manner of leaning over every conversation had been forgotten. Now he sat in the back and spoke softly, still chastened from what Apollo had said. Not a ferry, Wheeler said. Not a ferry, Wheeler said, enjoying holding on to the mystery. At the light, he made a left on Long Beach Boulevard. Then he drove on a small bridge over a wreck-laid island channel. Finally, they reached a single-lane drive. Wheeler parked in front of a 2-story colonial home with a shingle hanging over the front door that read Island Park Yacht Club. He pointed toward a series of docks where 5 small boats were in the water. You ever been in the cockpit before, Joey? Wheeler asked. Apollo knew the quote but couldn't bring himself to laugh or even grin politely. In the back seat, Patrice had taken out his phone and tapped the screen. Wheeler flicked at the 2 strawberry air fresheners, making them bump and swing. I'm old, he said to laugh. Just ignore me, but can I ask you guys a favor? Can you please call me William? He guided Apollo and Patrice to a 41-foot Hunter sloop. It bobbled faintly in the water, brushing 2 inches closer to the dock, then 2 inches away. Wheeler stepped onto the boat easily, but it took Apollo and Patrice a fair bit longer. Baby steps for them. Meanwhile, William opened a doorway and went below. The gray-green waters of Wreck-Lee Channel slapped against the hull. The boat had been Christian child's play. Come down, William shouted. I've got beer. Let's make some money, Patrice said to Apollo, trying to sound upbeat. Apollo didn't answer as he went first below the deck. Chapter 44. When someone invites you onto his boat, what do you imagine? That probably depends on how common boat ownership is in your life. In Apollo's case, he wasn't expecting things to be so tight. There was a booth seating, but the table at the center was about the size of a chessboard. The seating had been upholstered in red faux leather, making it look like a couch you'd get in a rent-a-center. There was a galley kitchen, a sink, a microwave, hot plate, and a coffee machine, but the space itself was as big as a closet and almost as dark. And the bathroom, well, it made you envy the roominess and the comfort of an airplane toilet. William's boat was a bit underwhelming. And yet, how many damn boats did Apollo Kagwa own? Exactly none. So as he sat At the little table with Patrice and William, he lifted his beard and said, "You got a lovely boat." William sipped his beer and smiled. "I'm just going to admit something to you before, because I'm not any good at keeping secrets. You stole the boat," Patrice said. He'd already finished one beer, downing the whole thing in 2 gulps, and was on to the next. 2 six-packs sat on the table. The bottles sweated their chill. William barked out laughter. "I ain't steal it, but it's not mine." Here, he leaned back as best he could in the tight squeeze of the seating and slipped out his phone. He set it on the table. Patrice leaned forward to gaze at the screen. The boat rose and fell faintly. An icon of a small dinghy in splashing waters glowed on the phone. "This is called a float. It's like an Airbnb, but for boats." He tapped the app, and it bloomed like a flower. A picture of Child's Play appeared on the screen, and beneath that, a timer. "I rented the boat for 2 hours." Why bother with all this, Apollo wondered. Making them take the train out here, driving them out to a boat. The theatrics played against William's low-key suburban dad style, but maybe some people just like putting on a show. "You planning on taking us somewhere?" Apollo asked. "Because I have to be back Flushing by 5. William picked up his phone and put it back into his pocket. "I don't even know how to drive a boat," he said. "So why rent it at all?" Patrice asked, on to his 3rd beer. Maybe guilt was making him throw him down. "It's my app," William said. "I wrote it. If I don't use it, who will? Besides, I don't get much company these days." "How many boats do you have signed up?" Apollo asked. William patted the table. "1, he said, so far." "You're a coder," Patrice said. Then he reached into his pocket and took out his phone. He opened the photo and held it towards William. "Check out this rig." William cooed. "You built it yourself, didn't you?" "If I'd bought it, they'd charge me 8 times the price. I built my daughter's first laptop," William said. "You have pictures?" Patrice asked, warming to William for the first time. Apollo couldn't guess if Patrice wanted to see the photos of the child or the laptop. William scrolled through his phone, then held the screen towards Patrice. "Beautiful," Patrice said. "Put a Core i5 processor in there," William cooed. Apollo warmed to both these tech geeks, but knew he'd better change the subject quickly or they'd spend the next 2 hours exactly like this. Apollo pulled the book out of his bag. That worked. William looked away from Patrice. "You wrapped it? That's nice. It was meant to be a gift anyway." William picked it up. After drying his hands on his pants, he brought the wrapped book so close to his face, Apollo thought the guy would sniff it. "I guess I hoped to see it before I bought it," William said. He looked from Apollo to Patrice, but "that's okay. I feel like I could trust you guys." "Get it to me," Apollo said. He took the book and laid it flat. No, William said. "It's okay." Patrice finished his beer and reached for the 4th, but stopped himself. No matter how guilty he might feel, he was not going to risk having an open beer near a book meant to sell for so much money. A few droplets along the page edge, and William could cut the offering price by tens of thousands of dollars. "You're about to pay us $70,000 for this thing," Apollo said. "I want you to be able to say you saw it first." He set the book down, worked the tape with the tip of his mailbox key. "You said it was a gift," Patrice slurred. "It's for my wife," William said. He watched Apollo work. "It's her birthday or something?" Patrice asked. He held on to that 4th beer, squeezed it tight. William dropped his head. "We're estranged." He stopped and sighed. "My wife moved back to her parents in Bayshore. I've been on my own for 11 months. Apollo lifted the book. "Here it is." William looked at the book, held it close to his face. He opened the covers. He read the inscription on the first page. "This is perfect," he whispered. A look of relief passed across William's ruddy face. A few tears gathered in the corners of his eyes. From just the littlest bit of information and a strange wife, the family moved out. Apollo saw the outlines of a moving story form. Greta's father used to read this book with her when she was little, William said. That's my wife, Greta Strickland. Her father was Forrest Strickland. They were both from Alabama, just like the book, a city called Opelika. He spoke so softly that the water slapping against the hull nearly drowned him out. Apollo had to lean closer so he could hear. William closed the book and looked at the cover. It's just a story about a good father, right? He continued. Nobody could live up to it, not in real life, but I think her dad used to read it to her just to give her a model, something to strive for, you know? She never forgot it. And then she married me, but I wasn't Atticus Finch. Neither was he, Patrice said, much too loudly. William looked at him quickly, but then back to Apollo. You know, Patrice muttered, because of the book? Okay. William spoke to Apollo directly. I'm about 10 years older than you, I think. I was one of the last waves of men who thought all you had to do was work, 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 and that made you a great dad. Provide, provide, provide. But you know what happens when you do it like that? You look up after 20 or 35 years and your wife doesn't know you. Your kids might respect you, might. But the other thing, the happiness, you aren't close enough with them to share it. You understand? Your wife doesn't know you, and neither do your kids. I know that's right. Then guys your age get a whole new data set. It's not enough to make money, and besides, you can't make enough to cover everything, not on your own. Your wife might want to work, or she might not, but it doesn't matter. She has to work. When I started, when I was starting out, you got by on one income, and that was enough. But these days, you got to be poor or rich to survive on one income. I know that's right. No in between. You got to be poor or rich to survive on one income. You want to stay afloat in the middle, and you both are hitting that 9 to 5. William returned the book to Apollo, who rewrapped it with a new reverence. It was not simply an expensive sale anymore. It was soon to play a part in one's family history. New dads, William said. I know people make fun, but I see those guys pushing babies in the stroller on the way to work, or the ones with their kids at the park at 6 in the morning, and I feel like I missed the good part. I know it's a lot of work, but it's the good stuff. And I ain't even know I was missing it. No one ever told me it was the stuff to covet. My dad certainly didn't make it a priority. Anyway, it's not like doing things the old way left me rich. I worked my ass off to barely stay afloat. It's costing me most of what I have in savings to try to win Greta back with this. William pointed at the book, then gulped the last of his beer. Apollo finished the wrapping and lightly ran his pointy finger along the edge one more time. If I could just get my wife back into the house, I could do better. Now I know what matters. I love my daughter so much, but I never said it. I thought it was obvious, or should have been obvious, because of the things I did for them, but people need to hear the words, you know? I didn't realize that for 25 years. William accepted the book from Apollo. He clutched it to his stomach as if to protect it. When I saw your listing for the book, I figured maybe it could convince Greta I was serious. She read this to the girls like her father did to her. I used to call my wife Mockingbird when we were young, like a pet name. I don't remember when I stopped. It was after the kids came, I know that much. A couple of years ago, I finally figured out what I was doing wrong. I tried to go back to the old days, go back to the way things used to be, but maybe it was too late. Or she didn't want to go back in time. Not with me. She left me because we were absolute strangers. I never hit her or cheated on her. We barely even argued. I mean, I've been a programmer for 19 years. nights and weekends, or when you catch up on the work you didn't get done from 9 to 5. I bet I spent more time on code than I did in my marriage. I know I did. I turned into a ghost to her, and maybe she was a ghost to me. You think this could work? What's you guys' feelings? Patrice lifted one of the empty bottles and placed it back into the case. He did the same with the others, his and theirs. He stopped looking tipsy. It was as if William's earnestness, his honesty, had sobered up the big man. You tell all that stuff you just told us, Patrice said, and I bet she'd at least consider it. William nodded faintly. He reached into his pocket for his phone again. I can write you both a check if you want, he said, but it would be even quicker if I just sent the funds to an account electronically. Do you want to do that? Apollo gave William his routing number and the account number. That's interesting. He and Patrice would split the profits after the money cleared. William refreshed his phone browser and stared at the number in his account, in his savings account, all zeros. That's it then, he said softly. If this doesn't get it back, I'm all tapped out. He set down the phone and held the rap book. This paper is a nice touch. Then, right there on the boat, William took one hiccuping breath and cried. After the surprise of it passed, both Apollo and Patrice brought a hand to William's back and patted him as he let his tears out. All right. We'll read one more chapter and wrap it up for tonight. Chapter 45. First thing you do when you get some money is pay off old debts. Don't buy anything new until your ledger is clear. Apollo learned that early in his career as a bookman, and it remained a bit of a gospel for him, which is how he ended up making plans to see Kim Valentine again. The Mahayana Buddhist temple is one of the most famous sites for tourists to visit in all of Chinatown. The two golden lions guard the red front door, and inside sits the largest Buddha statue in all of New York City. Before it became the Mahayana Buddhist temple, it had been the Rosemary Theater, a place that showed steady rotation of kung fu movies and porn films. In 2011, Kim asked Apollo and Emma to meet her at this temple when they'd agreed to take her on as their midwife. None of them were Buddhists, and when they arrived, they were treated appropriately, like any of the other million of tourists who wandered through to gawk at the red and gold design inside. They stood under the great golden Buddha, 16 feet tall and perched on a lotus flower, his head ringed by a blue halo fastened from neon tubing. They hadn't known if they were supposed to get on their knees, bow their heads, or what. Apollo, out of a very old habit, even made the sign of a cross. Interesting. Kim finally had to admit that meeting clients at a Buddhist temple just seemed kind of holy in a way that promised to offend none of her clients, all of them Westerners. Emma and Apollo had been the first ones to even question the meeting place. Feeling silly, they all went out to eat at a spot nearby called Tasty Dumpling on Mulberry Street, the best dumpling spot in Chinatown. A good meal together felt even holier than a temple visit. Breaking bread, it matters. It was in this spirit, the warmth of the house of those old times, that Apollo greeted Kim out in front of the temple. He stood next to one of the golden lions, making room for the tourists and actual practicing Buddhists moving in and out of the space. When Kim arrived, she seemed burned through, bone tired. I was up for 2 days, she admitted after they hugged. When she stepped back, she watched his face wearily for a moment. It's good to see you. Did you bring me here to yell at me? I thought about it, Apollo said, trying to seem light, but not sure if he quite pulled it off. But I picked this place because it's a happy memory. Kim leaned into him again, and the hug lasted longer this time. Do you want to go inside or do you want to talk? Do you want to walk? Apollo asked. It's kind of dark in there, Kim said. I'm so tired I might fall asleep. Apollo pointed over the shoulder towards the Manhattan Bridge. Let's walk then. They crossed the street and stopped on the traffic island as 500 cars took on to the ramp to the bridge. The grand arch and the colonnade made the Manhattan Bridge appear majestic, even under decades of soot. Kim looked pained for the moment before she spoke. Triplets, she said, then caught herself and scanned Apollo. Do you mind me talking about this? It's okay. Triplets, she repeated. Never had that many before. The couple used fertility treatments. It's kind of amazing how commonplace that thing is now. I'm still amazed by it, and I see it all the time. Do you think it's a bad idea? Would you go back to the way it was? Kim opened her hands as if she held a baby in them now. It means more life in this world, she said. I'm a sucker for life. I wanted to pay you what we owed you. Apollo took out his wallet and found the check he'd written. I'm sorry it's post-dated until Friday. That's when the money clears. He held the check between his two fingers, and it flapped there in the strong winds rolling off the East River. Kim couldn't have looked more confused. She shook her head, and her tired eyes turned even redder. In the end, you didn't even need me. Emma did it herself. You did it together. Between you and that class, we were all well trained, Apollo said, and this is yours. Apollo, she said, but then she seemed lost for anything more. I never found out her third wish, Apollo said, not really speaking to Kim. Kim stepped toward him and put her arms around him. I think you should know. She started. Her face stayed pressed close to his neck, and the traffic moved on and off the Manhattan Bridge. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she said, crying openly now. But this is how it is. They let go of each other. Apollo still held the check between his fingers, and finally Kim nodded and slipped it into her hand. She kissed his cheek once, and he watched her let go. Goodbye, Valentines, Apollo whispered. Apollo stayed there until long after Kim disappeared into the throngs of Canal Street. He turned back to the bridge. He liked the idea of walking across it, crossing over the water into Brooklyn. He jogged across the road and made it to the pedestrian footpath. He wasn't on it for 2 moments before his phone rattled in his pocket. After 2 more steps, the phone vibrated again. He stopped and looked down at the East River below him. For one moment, he considered tossing the phone away, but then he succumbed to a much older technology, hardwired into the human brain: curiosity. He swiped his phone and found one new text message. Emma Valentine is alive. I can help you find her. All right, that's perfect. Now, I'm curious to see how he gonna start when they actually go to the island where they think Emma is and all that stuff. It's gonna be lit. So I am curious, cause she definitely is alive. She definitely is alive, but nobody has seen her. She's on some island, and they gonna find it. I can tell you now that weird text is from the William dude, and I'd be so concerned that he ain't had the money, because he is not living like a person chugging 64 ounces of tab normally is not sitting on $70,000 to give away. So I anticipate him being like disputing that. So I'll be watching and worried. Anyway, family, I appreciate you for your time and support as always. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And I look forward to you joining us again Tuesday as we continue our discussions on healing. And if you can't make it Tuesday, I hope to have you back here Thursday for book club as we continue reading Changeling by Victor Lavalle. And before we go, I want to remind you that you love yourself and others, that you deserve to be loved, that you forgive easily, that your heart is fully open, loving, and pure, and that you can follow the voice of your heart. I appreciate you, family, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Peace.